Welcome to the Jessie Freeze Show on WMTR 1250 AM, a Beasley Media Group station. Brought to you by www.insidernj.com. Online news for political insiders in New Jersey. Streaming live on WMTRAM.com and TalkStreamLive.com.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jessie Freeze. We are honored this morning to have as our guest esteemed Philip R. Sellinger, the United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. As U.S. Attorney, he is responsible for overseeing all federal criminal prosecutions and the litigation of all civil matters in New Jersey, including the offices in Newark, Camden, and Trenton. He supervises a staff of 155 federal prosecutors and approximately 130 support personnel. Formerly, Philip Sellinger was co-managing partner of the New Jersey office of an international law firm, an office he founded in 2002. He received his J.D. from New York University School of Law in 1979 and his B.A. summa cum laude from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in 1976. He has received numerous honors and awards, and he is married to Barbara Sellinger, who chairs the American Cancer Society Region Advisory Board. And today he will discuss the work of his office in a variety of areas. Welcome to the show, U.S. Attorney Philip R. Sellinger.
Thank you, Jessie. I'm pleased to be with you today.
Well, we're pleased to have you. With all the violence and problems facing us today, in your assessment, how safe is New Jersey?
The scourge of gun violence is a national problem, Jessie, that we all must confront and work to reduce. In New Jersey, my office has worked tirelessly with our law enforcement partners to reduce gun violence by targeting and dismantling violent criminal organizations who operate in some of our most vulnerable communities. We have gone offensive to target individuals who drive violence, and the results reveal we're making an impact. In terms of gun violence, New Jersey is safer now than it was at this point last year, when we experienced a 22% reduction in overall shooting incidents. Newark and Jersey City, for example, experienced significant reductions in shootings last year and are currently on pace to improve upon those gains this year. While we are grateful for these hard-earned reductions in shootings, we are, however, clear-eyed about the immense challenge of reducing gun violence and protecting lives within our communities. Every single shooting and senseless act of violence is a tragedy, and public safety remains the highest priority of my office and our law enforcement partners.
So would you say that gun use and violence are the major problem, or one of the biggest problems we face in New Jersey today?
Gun violence is a major problem in New Jersey and across the nation as a whole. Yes.
And prosecutor, hate crimes across America have escalated at an alarming rate. How does New Jersey compare to other states when it comes to hate crimes?
Like the rest of the country, New Jersey is seeing an alarming rise in hate crimes across the board. We've seen across the country, as well in New Jersey, far too many instances where people lost their lives due to hate-filled violence. Jersey City several years ago, Buffalo, Charlottesville, the Pulse nightclub, Half Moon Bay, Monterey Bay Dance Studio, and elsewhere. Standing up to hate is central to our mission at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and we have no higher priority than keeping our communities safe, including those communities that are far too often targeted. Jessie, your listeners may not be familiar with the history of the Department of Justice, but the department was created in the wake of the Civil War in the 1880s, when the KKK was terrorizing the South, burning homes, assaulting individuals, murders, and lynchings. And the Department of Justice brought thousands of prosecutions at that time. And fast forward, I'm old enough to remember during the Civil Rights Movement of the 60s, when the Department of Justice accompanied Black students to Southern universities that had closed it to them. You remember that?
Yes, I remember well.
Yeah, and Jessie, several weeks ago, I had the privilege of being in Selma and crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge on the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, along with President Biden and leaders of the Department of Justice, where we were honoring the heroes of the civil rights movement. America has made great strides over the years, but the work is not complete. There are still far too many acts of discrimination and hate and unequal treatment under the laws.
Well, U.S. Attorney Selinger, your office, the United States Attorney's Office, it's taken quite a few steps to help combat hate crimes in New Jersey.
Yes, I have redoubled my office's efforts to root out hate in New Jersey. We have not hesitated to bring charges for hate crimes where the evidence warrants it. Earlier this year, we charged an individual with throwing a Molotov cocktail at a synagogue in Broomfield. Last year, yes, it was horrible. Last year, we charged an individual for a series of hateful, violent attacks directed at visibly identifiable members of the Orthodox Jewish community in Lakewood. And we have also acted when there are threats of violence. Last year, you'll recall, we brought charges against the perpetrator who made terroristic threats against synagogues in New Jersey. So that's on the criminal scope, but criminal enforcement, as important as it is not the only tool in our arsenal. We have a holistic approach to these cases. So if a hate incident doesn't rise to a criminal violation, our civil enforcement attorneys bring combat hate and bias through the enforcement of anti-discrimination laws. So to that end, we've opened several investigations and filed lawsuits. For example, several weeks ago, we brought a redlining prosecution against a bank that had refused to lend to majority-minority areas in Newark. We brought investigations involving and lawsuits, discrimination in housing and public accommodations, lending, and education as well.
Well, has the incident, would you say, U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Selinger, has the incidence of hate crimes in New Jersey changed over time?
It has. It's gone up in New Jersey, and it's gone up nationally. Most recent reports from the FBI show increases across the country and with respect to almost all of the marginalized communities. New Jersey is no different than anywhere else.
And we understand you announced the launch of an anti-hate crime initiative in New Jersey called United Against Hate, the first of its kind. Tell us about this.
Yes, we're very excited about it. We were one of 3 United States attorneys' offices in the country to pilot the United Against Hate initiative with the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice in Washington. New Jersey is arguably the most diverse state in the country, and I believe that's one of our greatest strengths. So the steps we've taken in the United Against Hate effort is to have an outreach program where we meet with community groups and religious groups around the state to discuss ways to combat and prevent acts of hate. And one of the most significant aspects of these meetings are discussions of how to identify hate crime, report hate crime, and respond to incidents of hate. I've also been meeting across the state with communities and town halls, usually in churches or other houses of worship in cities across the state. I have one in Camden next week. And at these town halls, we discuss how many different communities can work together. We discuss our mission and ways we can all work together to combat hate and violence and discrimination.
Well, I think your town hall meetings are an excellent way to reach the public, to let them know that you're helping. And I'd love to cover that for you when you go to Camden next week. What resources, though, are available to the victims of hate crimes in New Jersey?
We have resources and support for survivors of crime. So the Justice Department has an office for victims of crime that provides resources and support for the victims of violent incidents and their family. This office also funds state victim assistance programs including programs here in New Jersey, and has a national hotline for all crime victims called Victims Connect. We also have professionals in our office who help connect victims with social service groups and others to help when responding to hate. But Jessie, probably as important, we recognize that a hate crime rarely has a single victim. When someone is attacked because of their race or religion or ethnicity, sexual orientation, or gender identity, it's often not an isolated incident, and it is the whole community that is victimized and traumatized. So
Absolutely.
we meet with communities after these incidents, and we discuss our United Against Hate initiative, and we join with a community relations service that the Department of Justice has that helps communities peacefully resolve conflicts through reconciliation efforts.
And do you see this working? Do you see this really reaching the people? And are they understanding what New Jersey is doing for them?
Look, there's a lot of distrust in government among the public, a lot of distrust in law enforcement, unfortunately. Shirley Dickinson, just a couple of days ago, came out with a poll reflecting abysmal records of the perception of the integrity of government officials. But
Well, that's a shame.
It's horrible. But I think part of my role as U.S. Attorney is to try and help build trust between communities and law enforcement. And there's no way to do that without going right out into the community yourself and looking at people straight in the eye and talking to them. I mean, they don't always like our answers. There are things that the community wishes we could do that we can't. It may be outside our jurisdiction or outside our reach, but I believe that the community is entitled to the respect of having the United States Attorney come before them, explain our mission and how we're attempting to serve it, because our ultimate job is to represent the members of the community. We represent the citizens of New Jersey.
So, Attorney Sellinger, really what you're doing, what New Jersey is doing, is working to create a more inclusive and welcoming community. And this lets the people know that you're really behind them, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Getting on to the next subject, gun violence. And gun violence is a major national issue today. And we understand New Jersey is the third lowest in the nation for gun deaths, despite being the most densely populated state. What is New Jersey doing right in preventing gun violence that other states are not?
In New Jersey, my office launched a violent crime initiative where we joined together with all of our federal partners, the FBI, the Drug Enforcement Administration, Homeland Security, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and other federal partners, as well as our state partners and our local partners. And we have an initiative where this group gets together very frequently in major cities in the state and talks about each of the gun incidents that has occurred and how to attack them. And it's aimed at the drivers of violence. It's aimed at the criminal organizations, and it's attempting to dismantle, target and dismantle those criminal organizations and those drivers of violence who operate in some of our most vulnerable communities. And that's why we believe that the gun violence rate in New Jersey has gone down significantly. And, my federal partners at the FBI, the DEA, TF, and the like, they typically, in a career, move around many states. Lawyers oftentimes are more localized, but our federal law enforcement partners really travel around. And without exception, all of them say that the collaboration in New Jersey among the federal partners, the state and local partners is exceptional and unlike what they experience in any other state. So I think the collaboration in New Jersey is just really extraordinary. And I think that's one very significant part of how gun violence has been mitigated here.
So that's certainly an honor for New Jersey, and more states, though, should follow how you prevent gun violence. Maybe they should take your lead.
Well, I can tell you that the Department of Justice is trying to do this across the country, but I know it's had some measurable positive impacts here.
Yes, but do you think it will all even out and we will definitely reach the gun violence crisis in the country?
Well, you have a lot of very dedicated public servants who are doing their all each and every day to try and protect the community.
Well, that's certainly heartening to hear that, and keep up your good work. I understand you created a civil rights division in your office. Why did you create it, and what does it do?
The increase in acts of hate, which we've already talked about, discrimination, and the need, candidly, for police accountability are the principal reasons why I created a civil rights division in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey. This is the first and largest division in our district's history to focus entirely on enforcing and protecting the civil rights of those in our community. And it is proving to be a force multiplier in ensuring that all civil rights violations are addressed either criminally or civilly. On the subject of police accountability, I always note that the overwhelming majority of police officers treat their oaths to protect and serve seriously. They understand the trust that's placed in them by the community when they wear the badge, and we work with them every single day. But there are exceptions, and when police officers abuse the trust that the community places in them, when they violate the constitutional rights of the people of New Jersey, my office is prepared to act. So the Patterson police cases that my office brought over the last couple of years, you're familiar with them, is one good example of the many criminal cases we bring involving police misconduct. In those cases, an entire squad of rogue police officers that were known as the robbery squad routinely violated the civil rights of Patterson residents by illegally stopping and stealing from them and routinely using excessive force. Our investigation resulted in criminal convictions of 8 Patterson police officers, including a sergeant who was convicted after a trial.
Well, that's great. That's so encouraging to hear, because civil rights struggles are going on right now, and protected civil rights include the right to vote, equality in public places, freedom from involuntary servitude, as well as freedom of the press and speech. Are these going to carry on? These rights seem to be eroding, though, in this current political climate, but you foresee a future for them?
You know, I can't comment on the political climate, but I can tell you that the Department of Justice and the United States Attorney's Office in New Jersey and across the country are dedicated to enforcing the civil rights of our citizens. So our Civil Rights Division here in New Jersey, I doubled the number of attorneys who are devoted exclusively to protecting all those rights that you just described. And this is a high priority, not only in my office, but my colleagues at U.S. Attorney's offices across the country.
Well, we're lucky to have you. And when we get back, I've got to go on a quick break, but how can we protect people from discrimination due to race, religion, sexual orientation, age, and gender? And I'll be right back. I'm Jessie Fries. My special guest this morning, United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Philip R. Sellinger. As U.S. Attorney, he is responsible for overseeing all federal criminal prosecutions and the litigation of all civil matters in New Jersey. He is the recipient of a multitude of honors and awards, and today we're discussing the work of his office in a variety of areas, ranging from hate crimes to gun violence to civil rights and more. We'll be right back with Philip Sellinger.
John Graham, founder and CEO of Fairview Insurance Agency Associates, has been providing excellent service for the people of New Jersey since 1970. Fairview Insurance is a premier family-owned and operated independent full-service insurance agency based in Verona and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, working on behalf of individuals, companies, and public entities providing customized insurance plans, employee benefits, investment, and financial planning services. Fairview holds more than 30 licenses to service clients' needs in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, as well as nationally through specialty insurance programs for hard-to-place risks. Fairview Insurance Agency's knowledge of the industry, cohesiveness, and deep commitment to values have inspired confidence among their many thousands of clients. Fairview Insurance Agency Associates, Verona, New Jersey will win your trust.
For the latest up-to-date news, visit www.insidernj.com. Online news for political insiders in New Jersey, featuring politicians, attorneys, medical, celebrities, and people and issues in the news.
Fairview Insurance Agency, 25 Fairview Avenue in Verona. Find them online at fairviewinsurance.com.
Welcome back to the Jessie Freeze Show, brought to you by www.insidernj.com. Online news for political insiders in New Jersey.
Welcome back. My special guest this morning, United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Philip R. Sellinger. And as we said in the break, how can we protect people from discrimination due to religion, sexual orientation, age, gender, race?
We have opened several investigations and have lawsuits pending addressing, I mentioned redlining, but also discrimination in housing. We brought a major lawsuit with respect to a landlord who was sexually abusing tenants, female tenants and gay tenants, by trying to extort them to provide safe housing in exchange for sexual favors. And we brought a case that resulted in the largest settlement in a housing discrimination case in the Department of Justice's history. So,
that's good.
Yeah, housing, public accommodation. I talked about redlining involving lending. It's a very active part of our practice.
Well, that's certainly encouraging. What is your office doing to combat the opioid and fentanyl crisis? Fentanyl and other opiates are fueling the worst drug crisis in the history of the United States, and more than 1,500 people die per week from taking some type of opiate. Is there a way to get opiates ever off the streets, Prosecutor Sellinger?
Let me talk about opioids generally and then fentanyl specifically.
Okay.
Our office has a specialized unit, the Opioid Abuse Prevention and Enforcement Unit, which is staffed with 7 assistant U.S. attorneys devoted to combating the opioid crisis. We focus on every step of the opioid supply chain. So we target doctors who violate their professional duties and prescribe opioids illegitimately, pharmacists, and the pharmacies that profit by turning a blind eye to improper prescriptions.
Could I stop you right there? Are there many doctors or pharmacies actually doing this?
There are a number of pending criminal prosecutions against doctors and pharmacists and pharmacies in connection with the diversion of opioids.
Wow.
Sales representatives as well who unlawfully promote opioids, individuals who unlawfully obtain and distribute opioids, and manufacturers and distributors that violate their duties to ensure that the medications are not being abused. The assistant U.S. attorneys in my office in that unit are leading a task force of agents from the FBI, the DEA, the HHS, IRS, and other law enforcement partners. They're part of that unit that is leading that task force to identify, investigate, and prosecute targets who contribute to the crisis. So that's, prescription opioid. Regarding fentanyl, one of the DEA's nationally and our narcotics unit's top priorities is fentanyl trafficking. It's a nationwide priority for us and our DEA partners, given how widespread and dangerous fentanyl is. We certainly recognize that fentanyl has become the leading contributor to drug-induced fatality in the District of New Jersey. So we have Yeah, we have two distinct approaches to combating the fentanyl epidemic. First, we prioritize investigations and prosecutions involving fentanyl specifically. While we certainly hold local drug dealers accountable, we're seeking to bring high-impact cases that will have the greatest effect on the cartels that are responsible for importing and distributing the drugs. And these investigations target the sources of supply, both domestically but also internationally, with the goal of identifying and disrupting and dismantling the larger fentanyl trafficking organizations. And in that regard, we use our resources to specifically target and stem the flow of fentanyl into the state of New Jersey. And then second, we work with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners to investigate cases involving drug-induced overdose fatalities. The office remains dedicated to prosecuting drug distributors who are directly responsible for overdose fatalities. In addition to securing justice for victims and their families, our objective here is deterrence. Simply stated, those seeking to profit from selling lethal narcotics must get the message that that conduct comes with stiff penalties.
And are drug cartels the main leaders in fentanyl production and distribution? How does fentanyl actually get into the United States, Attorney Selinger?
The Drug Enforcement Administration in Washington has numerous, public statements relating to the way in which cartels, two principal cartels, import fentanyl into the United States. It's a very significant problem.
And do we have enough agents, though, to monitor our ports of entry, even our Port Newark?
I can tell you that the Drug Enforcement Administration has deemed fentanyl to be the major priority of its enforcement efforts, and it is dedicating very substantial resources to that effort.
My producer tells me I have 2 minutes and I have so many more questions for you. But before we leave this show, with the alarming rise of stolen vehicles in New Jersey, how are we addressing this issue?
Auto theft is certainly a challenge all of New Jersey law enforcement is collectively working to address. My office has established an auto theft task force that works hand in glove with our state and local partners throughout the entire tri-state area. Many of the prolific auto theft offenders are juveniles who are traditionally not prosecuted within the federal criminal justice system. But we are working with our local law enforcement partners to help strengthen their local investigations while also identifying and targeting organized criminal entities who are helping to fuel the stolen car trade.
And we know that car theft rings are recruiting, as you just said, minors to swipe cars or key fobs, but paying them $1,000 per vehicle. Are we turning these minors into criminals?
Well, I don't know that we're turning minors into criminals, but you are absolutely correct.
But the people that are behind this.
You're absolutely correct that juveniles are a principal part of the stolen car problem in New Jersey and in America today.
Well, I feel then we are addressing the issue of car theft, which are on the rise nationally.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, this time has come to a close. It's gone all too quickly. We want to thank you for a most informative interview, U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Philip Selinger, and we look forward to future interviews and covering some of those town hall meetings. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jessie. I hope to see you on Monday night in Camden.
I hope I can be there. Thank you. And stay tuned. I'll be right back.